Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township for August 3rd, 2021. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, if Pastor Tim Lowy with Christ the King could open us up in prayer.
Sure. The Lord be with you. I bring you, thank you for that. I bring you greetings from the members and friends over at Christ the King, 2843 Stearns Road, where we are delighted to be part of the Bedford community, including being Precinct 8 on Election Day. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, Almighty God, we give you thanks for placing us in this good and beautiful Bedford Township. Grant that we remember your generosity and constantly do your will. Bless our township with honest industry, truthful education, and an honorable way of life. Save us from violence, discord, and confusion, from pride and arrogance, and from every evil course of action. Bless our elected council members with wisdom from above, that they may make good decisions based in your will to the benefit of the citizens of Bedford. Please also bless our deliberations this night. May they reflect your goodness and mercy. We ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen.
Amen.
The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the communion of the Holy Ghost be with all of you. Amen.
Thank you very much.
Have a good
Appreciate
meeting.
you. Have a great
Thank
night.
You.
Okay. Item number 2 is approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda is submitted.
Support. Okay, motion and supported by Mr. Bruning. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 3 is the consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to A, improve a place and file the minutes of the July 20th, 2021 regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board.
Motion to approve the consent agenda is published.
Support.
Okay, motion supported by Ms. Janaszek. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item number 4 is presentations. We have Matt Vanasecker with Monroe County Business Development Corporation regarding the industrial park roads. Matt, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Awesome.
Myself and Matt and Tim Lake and Mr. Bushman have been kind of working on the situation at the industrial park with the roads are in rough shape, and we're just looking to do what we can do to help out our business partners in the industrial park. And do it in the most efficient way possible. So,
awesome. Well, good evening, Mr. Supervisor and Madams Clerk and Treasurer and Trustees of Bedford Township. As Mr. Peroni said, my name is Matt Vanasecker. I'm the Vice President of Business Development for the Monroe County BDC. I'm also a fairly new resident of Bedford Township. In fact, I lived across the street from Mr. Steiner there, and appreciate your time this evening. I promise not to take too much of it, as I know how valuable it is, but this is a matter of importance to the BDC and your business constituency. So tonight, on behalf of the businesses throughout the Bedford Industrial Park, I am here to request financial support of up to $175,000 and advocacy to expedite the repair of express, industrial, and cellular drives in the industrial park. One of our primary roles at the BDC is to serve as liaison between the bodies of government throughout the county and the business community at large. And about 3 to 4 months ago, amongst the course of our standard retention visits in the Bedford Industrial Park, we received word and observed that road conditions throughout the park were deteriorating in a few spots, and they were worsening. Early in July, we then convened a group of representatives from businesses in the park to discuss the roadways and a path forward. Barry Bushman of Mannix Smith Group and Supervisor Peroni were kind enough to attend as well to hear the concerns and also provide initial evaluation of the conditions in the park. Supervisor Peroni indicated that the county has ownership of the roadways in the park, but repair to an area of that size is not often part of Act 51 dollar allocation as they're designated as local roads. As a result of this meeting, it was decided amongst the group to inform the Township Board of collective concerns with the roadway conditions and to request financial support from the board to expedite this repair process. At this point, I would like to hand it over to Mr. Bushman just to provide some general comments on the state of the roadways.
Thanks, Matt. And I think, does everybody have a copy of the plan? Or anyways, well, we can pass this around. I mean, there's about half a dozen areas that really require repair. It's not the entire concrete pavement. Essentially, what you do have is both entrances are in pretty bad shape. There's one stretch for about 150, 200 feet that's really failing by a drainage, couple catch basins, and there's some isolated flags of concrete that also are cracked and should be repaired. In addition to that, most of the joints, construction joints and everything else, you can see right down to the subgrade, thereby allowing a lot of moisture and water and salt and everything else to get in there and accelerating the pavement deterioration. So we did provide a quick estimate for the construction repair and provided it to the group. And that's pretty much the areas as outlined of what needs to be done. Anybody has any questions? I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Bushman? Mr. Steiner?
So on your drawing, what is the SYD concrete repair?
Square yards?
Okay, square yards, so 350 on average. And I see our original notes from the presentation said 150,000, now it's 175.
Yeah, that was based on a preliminary estimate, and then we didn't have, we added in the joint sealing because that's going to be critical to make sure we seal those joints. And of course, the road commission is going to have involvement, so they'll expect us to prepare a set of documents that will be bid and require some level of inspection. But that's so it added up to about 175, maybe somewhere between 170, 175 is what we anticipate the final number to be.
So with all these concrete sections, what else is going to be, because I hear you talking about crack seal, et cetera.
Right. It's concrete repair and crack filling of
Okay, so it's just
the
crack
joints.
fill,
That's
no
it. That's
pavement.
the what?
No additional pavement, so it's crack fill?
Well, correction of the concrete pavement, repair and replacement of those areas, and then, of course, filling all the joints and blowing out all the joints and resealing everything so, you don't have water into all the concrete pavement and subgrade during the winter months.
Okay, so it's not a full-blown...
Oh, no, this is just
maintenance.
those about half dozen areas that are circled in red along with some, there's a half dozen other sections or flags of concrete that are cracked that also were included. But those are the primary areas that you show on the map.
I was going to say, that's a lot of road for 150 or 175.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yes.
Okay, that's all.
Couple
Mr. Gore?
questions. Has there, how long has the industrial park been there? It's been there quite a while.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Probably over 30 years, I'm
Has there
guessing.
been additional road improvements through those years, or is this the first time over 30 years that you've come?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. As long as I've been your township engineer, there hasn't been any other work other than, some of the individual owners have done some isolated repair for their driveways and the like, but for the most part, from what I can tell, there really hasn't been much of any work done.
And I see the areas that you want repaired or need to be repaired, and 4 or 5 more years later, there are going to be additional areas that are going to have to be repaired, and a few more years down the road, additional areas going to have to be repaired.
That was the big question from the business owners was, what about in 5 more years? That's why we're doing the crack sealing. If this crack sealing was done 5 years ago, we probably wouldn't be in this position.
Okay.
But it just hasn't been maintained. And obviously, when you don't maintain roads, they fall apart.
Correct.
So that's the whole point. We feel like with this fix, it's going to get them by for a lot longer. Will you have more fixes that are in the red? Yes, down the road, but it won't be like this.
And will the truck traffic, how will the roads hold up over the years with all the truck traffic coming in and out?
Well, so far, so good. I mean, we've had 30-plus years of good traffic on there, and it really has held up remarkably well. The concrete out there is really in pretty good shape. I mean, you got a little bit of joint stagger where you hear it get a little thump, thump, thump. I'm sure you're familiar with that on concrete pavement. But what we're trying to do also is minimize any of the heavier truck traffic that's coming from the back of the park for the new industry, but see if we can't do something with that. But overall, the pavement's in good shape, and with proper repair should hold up for many years to come.
We're in the process of meeting with Syncreon as well right now. We're trying to figure out why they're using the park as an exit. That would cut down on 50 to 75 trucks a day, but their trucks are light.
Go through there.
And there's a lot of frustration with that much more truck traffic through the park throughout the day. So we're in the process, Mr. Bannock, Secker, and myself, with getting a meeting with them. And that would be a question. There's obviously a few different options. The township board can pay for the project, or we help out with a portion of the project as good faith, because nearly $8 million in taxes to the local economy, $70 million in payroll, 1,400 employees. I think we need to be a good partner. And obviously, when Pearl Albert Green got this rolling, 40-some years ago, it's, developed into something great for our community. But if they were to do an SAD, I mean, that would be like the last option. There's only, how many businesses, Matt? 10 to 15?
16, 17. Or properties.
If we do the SAD, or they do the SAD, would Syncreon be a part of it, even though they're not technically in the industrial park because they utilize it as an exit? Or is that something you'd have to look into?
They could make them.
They could make them.
Because
Okay.
they tell me
We could request
who
it.
they want in it.
Okay. I just didn't know if they're outside of the actual
they're
district. I
using
know,
it.
like in a neighborhood, it'd be like, adding somebody in another neighborhood.
And
I didn't know
they
if
have been
that.
involved in the
Yeah,
initial
they're-
conversations. They attended the first meeting.
I just didn't know if
recognizing
legally
that they do
you could
have
do it on paper,
right.
with adding them to it. But, so yeah, that's, the tune of it is what involvement does the township board want? Obviously, the township board doesn't help out with your typical SADs because there's not enough money for 127 neighborhoods, but this is our industrial park. It's a lot different in my opinion, and we only have two, so.
And we do also have a few representatives from businesses in the park tonight too that I wanted to give the chance to offer a word as part of this presentation as well. So great.
And just real quick, Matt, the question was asked about if anything had ever been done. I can tell you in 20 years, nothing's ever come to the board that I can remember. And Mr. Goldsmith, you could probably answer prior to that. I don't think anything's come to this board. So I think these are original roads with minor repairs, nothing done through the township.
That's my belief and understanding, and I think these roads go back even farther than 30 years.
So,
So,
like
Well,
I said,
and
Pearl
just-
started it. So.
Just so the board knows, it's not the township's responsibility to maintain or repair this project.
Correct.
It's just the same as the other SAD, people that are here as well.
Yeah, fair's fair. It's their road. They can fix it.
That was going to be my question. How do we justify making the residents
That's why it's
stay
here.
and not the industrial park?
That's why it's here. Go ahead, sir.
I'm Greg Souza. I am the CFO for Rolled Alloys. We actually were one of the original tenants, and I think we built in 1981, so it gives you more of the age of the thing. And to my knowledge, we haven't seen any kind of overhauls. Of course, I didn't start there in 81, but I've been there for more than 20 years, and we haven't seen it. And I think the roads have held up well, considering. One of the things that the roads have to stand up to is the growth of the businesses there, and there certainly weren't 15 or 17 businesses when we started, and even Rolled Alloys was a tiny business when we started there, and we've expanded, pretty consistently, and I think some of the other businesses have too. And even right now, the big challenge for every business back there is finding people. Everybody weathered the pandemic to the extent that they could. But now I think, businesses are getting back on their feet. Nobody can find people. And And really, I mean, it's one of the only industrial parks around for this area. It's obviously, you guys would view it, or I guess anyone would view it as a decent tax source, revenue source. But we also do provide, as some of the statistics that Matt has pointed out or will point out, there's a lot of jobs back there and a lot of people, supporting other businesses and that kind of thing. So infrastructure investment is key. We're trying to get good talent in, and these days everybody wants to work from home, and we're having the same problem finding everybody else, and anybody as everybody else. So, keeping the roads and showing that there is a good investment in the park itself to support the businesses back there and the businesses as they continue to grow and try to find help is I think, a very worthwhile investment.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm not sure if there was anyone else that wanted to offer comment on behalf of the businesses at this time. Oh, yeah, sure.
Hi, my name is Sean Ball. I'm the purchasing manager with Fisher Tool and Die, and I've been asked to just kind of come and make some comments on behalf of a lot of the employees there. And what we really want to address is the truck traffic that you guys brought up from Syncreon. I've heard you mention the exiting of the trucks from the industrial park, but there is also a lot of traffic that is coming into the business and creating a lot of congestion at the corner of Enterprise and Stern. And I would also imagine the corner where Rolled Allies is as well. And it's become a concern just for safety aspects. A lot of these trucks are coming in, blowing the stop signs within the industrial park. I've had to stop in the middle of the road multiple times on my way to and from work just because of the way that these trucks drive. And I think it's just because of the congestion that they're dealing with as well. So part of our concern with the SAD, if it's developed, is making sure that Syncreon's included, because all of this truck traffic, you mentioned 50 trucks or so. In my experience, I'm seeing probably closer to 100 trucks that is coming in and out of this park on a daily basis. And we just want to make sure that if we're going to do this, that they're included and that they would be part of that, because, and also we would want them to look at another way for them to go in and out of the park. On Google Maps, I can't see anything connecting their parking lot to their business. If a connection could be made there, that would alleviate a lot of the truck traffic, and I think it would make it a lot safer. One of the other things we see is employees, not necessarily from Fisher, but from some of the other businesses, racing to beat the trucks out of there because they don't want to get stuck behind 3 Syncreon trucks trying to turn left or right out of that industrial park, and creates a line of traffic, that you got to wait in for 15 to 20 minutes. So it's more of a safety concern from Fisher's aspect that we would like to address. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much for being here to offer your thoughts. And as the handout that we passed out was referred to, the average business in the park's been around for 43 years in just kind of the longevity of these businesses and their creation. Estimated payroll $70 million annually, and that's 1,400 employees that are typically there in the park on a daily basis. And so, I mean, those people are, they're having breakfast at Red Star, they're getting coffee at DeCapo, they're having drinks after work at Pavlov's. They're giving to this community in other ways, that aren't necessarily tangible at the end, or that you can get a number on at the end of the day. But then also, in addition, they pay nearly $8 million in ad valorem taxes every year, which go to support, schools, libraries, public safety. So they definitely do have a substantial impact on the community. And we know, too, that both, a lot of times, too, they're bringing clients or suppliers into the park, and that's often their first representation of Bedford Township when these people are coming in. So I think I speak on behalf of everyone when I say that we want our township to be represented well to these guests and those alike. But as promised, I didn't want to take up too much of your time here tonight, but we did want to make you aware of the situation. And we asked the Township Board to consider financially supporting this project, and we hope that you'll work with the business community to help alleviate this problem in any way that you can. So I thank you, and if there's any other questions, feel free to ask. I can leave my card with Supervisor Peroni. He can get you all of our contact information.
Well, I would like to get some sort of direction from the board as a sentiment of how the board feels about a partnership. If we, because they're meeting Thursday to discuss it this week, and if it's,
I'll tell you, I'm not interested. Fair's fair, Paul. Our own residents have to pay for their own SAD, their businesses. With a $70 million payroll, I think they can afford a SAD to fix their road. They're no better than our residents,
okay, all right.
so I'm a no.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
I guess I was curious what the request is and timeline and all of those kind of things. Like, if we were to fund or partner or whatever, is there a timeline that we're looking for, or?
Well, Barry would have a better point on as far as when the construction would get done, but they're looking to move forward with it. I mean, right away.
I think I would say sooner rather than later, because we know that with the winter season coming, it'll get worse. So trying to get something done, either end of this year or early next spring, I think was kind of the.
How I look at that is, it's the 3rd of August. We just started the beginning of our fiscal. I don't remember budgeting $175,000 for this, so that would be my apprehension at the very least in the short term, without consideration, if we were to fund that. So that's just my thought.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Steiner?
So you mentioned an SAD. So what is the total projected cost for everything?
I think it's that 175 number.
Okay, so when you mention SAD, if you're asking the township for the 175, where's the SAD come in?
No, I think it was just trying to gauge the township's level of financial support for this, up to obviously if it was the full amount, that would be great. I mean, that would be best case scenario, but knowing that, that's probably not feasible given the budgetary constraints.
Right, so I mean, if you create an SAD, you'd have to have some kind of financial impact with the business owners.
Mm-hmm.
Synchrony on a big one, because they probably have more traffic than anyone, even though that's not their real main route that they should be on.
Right.
So that's a big player in it.
Well, the thing we need to figure out, though, I mean, they're going to go their own direction when they discuss Thursday. We need to figure out, are we going to partner? That's really, I mean, as far as getting into how the SAD is going to work, how they're going to fund it, we'll let them handle that. Let's just figure out tonight if we want to partner in it. Now, partnering in it could be we fund it out of our general fund and they pay us back, so they don't have to bond it. We could pay for the engineering portion of it. That could be a partnership. And they are not the same as a neighborhood, in my opinion. I just paid for an SAD in my neighborhood. This is the business development park who, like we said, just read all these things. In my opinion, it's not the same as a neighborhood. I don't think it's what's fair is fair. I think this is, in my opinion, totally different. I think the township should show good faith and partner in it. Can we partner in 127 neighborhoods? No. We couldn't even make a scratch to it. But we definitely have the resources and the funds set aside to where we could afford a little bit of money to help out in this situation. We don't have to pay for the whole thing, but we could partner in it and do something. Whether that's, if there's 17 business owners, then we would, have our 1/17 of it in it, or, we could put 10,000 towards it or something. I think it'd be a good thing for this board to partner up in some sort of fashion.
Over the years, we've also talked about the parks being fairly full as they are, and where do we go next? Do we go next? Do we look for another area to put another industrial park, that could expand future business growth in the township? So if that was the case, we would have to be putting money forward to develop a new park, because people aren't going to say, oh, I'm going to come when there's nothing there. If the infrastructure's there, then you've got a chance of attracting somebody.
We're missing out on opportunities.
Right.
By not having an industrial park with space. But we are having discussions and looking at some spaces of what we can do. We're limited. I mean, everybody here knows what we have. But there are a couple options out there, and, it's just very costly for this township to move forward on. It's a gamble, too. You bond a project like that, nobody comes, and you're paying that bond payment to have the property and put the infrastructure in, and then no businesses are coming. But, you know, that's a discussion down the road. So, anybody else?
I think it would be money better spent than we spent at the last meeting on carpet. But what are you gonna do?
We didn't spend it, that's the library's money.
No,
Idiot.
wrong.
All right, come on, let's stay focused here.
The-
What else?
You gotta know how.
The
it works.
issue is if Synchronize is the major contributor, or Syncreon, they've got to pony up. They have to, $175,000 right now, I'm not interested in spending, especially when we've turned down some other stuff for SADs and whatnot. Fair is fair. If we want to bankroll it and then pay us back, I would be interested in talking about that. Or possibly the 1/17th, I wouldn't be totally opposed. I need more information on that right now before I'd make a decision.
I'd be
I
willing to.
hear you, I hear you.
I'm not for the whole 175
No.
myself either.
Okay.
That's, to
No,
me,
but
that's a lot.
we could do what we do with other SADs and help with the engineering. We do that with the other SADs, at least go that
Okay,
route.
so let me ask you a question. So if we do the SAD, is the board gonna maintain it like we are with roads when they do SADs? Because now when you do an SAD, the township crack seals on the township dime now. So if they do the SAD, is the township gonna maintain it by putting caulk seals in it every year?
Could we, maybe Mr. Bushman, if he came back up, he might be able to answer a little bit. So since this is not asphalt crack seal, this is a little bit different.
Right.
Do you have any idea what that portion would cost for maintenance or something like that, and how often it would need to be done?
Well, that type of process should last many years. I mean, it's never been done, as far as I can tell, since in 30-plus
Right.
years, 40 years or whatever. But what you actually do is you clean out the joints completely, and like I say, some of them you can see right down to the pavement, so you're down to the base, so it's 8-9 inches. So once you feel that, it'd probably at least 8-10 years before you'd have to do anything else again.
And out of that 175, do you think 50 grand or?
I think it was probably more of the joint filling was probably, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, probably in the range of about 20,000.
Okay, so not as bad as I was thinking.
No.
And
That was one of the questions, if we're gonna pay for that next time it needs it.
right. So the engineering is approximately what on this? type
Probably
project?
15, 17,000 between the design and then also the inspection required by the road commission.
Okay, so you're talking probably 10 to 12, 13% for engineering and the other fees.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Well, I think we have a good idea of where we're at. I mean, obviously, the board's not going to pay for the whole thing. I think in some way, shape, or form, at the meeting Thursday, the board will partner in some way, shape, or form. So when it comes down to it, I think if we come back, and say, hey, here's the numbers, here's what we're going to do, what's your involvement, because, if they have to bond it and do other things, that'll add a decent amount to the project as well, so. Mr.
One
Snyder.
last thing, so if we decide to do something, okay, whatever portion we would decide to put in, that's one thing. And then the second portion was, do we put the money up front and have it paid back to the township?
One option they're talking about is this self-funding. I mean, there's a small amount of businesses, if
Right.
everybody can agree to pay the $10,000 or whatever it would be, then they can avoid the SAD and just get
Right.
the work done, so.
If that, whichever way they would want to do that, yeah.
So-
But if they wanted to find a way to fund it, that's an option we
Okay.
have.
Matt, do you feel like you have all your questions answered?
I got one more question real quick. So has anybody reached out to Syncreon? Are they willing to chip in, or are they, if you guys do the SAD, you'll fix it and they'll still just use the road and thumb their nose up at you?
So what I could say to that is they did attend the first meeting, the gathering of the businesses in the park. As Supervisor Peroni said, we are trying to get a meeting on the books because they don't technically own their building. They're a tenant of their building. So trying to get a meeting on the books with both Syncreon leadership and with, I believe it's CFM Properties that actually owns that parcel. We expect to have that done by the end of August, where we would be able to kind of give a better idea of where they're at.
And we got to find out why they're using it.
Yeah, and
Right.
figure out
'Cause,
why.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
public
There's no reason
road.
why they can't.
It's a public road. you know,
public
I mean,
road.
Legally, I
so-
think they can.
They can. It's a
Yeah.
public road. So, I mean, we got to figure out why they are, and if they figure out a way, because if we do reroute them, then they wouldn't be part of the SAD.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're not using, we're asking them not to use it, which I think they would be fine with, to have them not use it and cover the extra, $2,000 or whatever
Yeah.
per business.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but Crab Road was part of that transportation economic
Well,
development.
we
fund
had to do Crab Road in order for
in
Synchrony.
order for them to. That was part of
That was part of the deal.
the
Yeah.
deal. So I think the intent at that time was to have both inbound or to have outbound traffic occurring off of Crab. So
There was no discussion ever of using the industrial park.
Correct.
yeah.
So, any more questions for Mr. Vanassucker? I appreciate you coming, Matt.
No, I really appreciate your consideration of this. I know this is a hot topic.
Well, the biggest thing is, like Mr. Montre said, is this wasn't talked about 5 months ago during budget time. And so when we don't budget $200,000, it's a big deal for the board. So I think if this was something that was going to be next summer and the board had time to think about it and look at the budget a little harder, I think there would be a lot more consideration of it. But I totally get, do we have the money? Yes. Could we fund it? Yes. But it's one of them things that we're, doing our best to watch our funds. So.
Absolutely.
But-
and I would also echo Mr. Steiner's comments too. And these things do come up every once in a while. Some standard routine maintenance. So hopefully keep us in mind.
Okay.
Great.
Sounds good.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 5 is public comment. Comments limited to 5 minutes for board agenda items only. So come on up if you have a public comment. This is for board agenda items only. Okay. Special Assessment District.
I didn't have anything for this part of the agenda until the presentation was just made. And the presentation, to me, the bottom line in the presentation we just had is that we are being hesitant about making multi-million-dollar companies pay $11,000 apiece to maintain the roads in the park they're in. That's my only comment. I just don't quite understand that.
Okay. Any more comments from the public? It's got to be for a board agenda items. Okay.
My name is Andrea Allen, and we are one of the companies in the complex. We're Allen Tool and Die. We're in the old M&F building, which I believe my husband was saying was built in 1972. We are not a multi-million-dollar company, incidentally, just for the record. We've been in business 14 years. We used to rent some space in the back of Steel Dimensions. Excuse me, I get nervous and I get out of breath. They sold, and Flat Rock Steel needed that space, so we needed to find a spot to go. And we were very fortunate and blessed.
Hey, ma'am,
And-
could you just direct your comments to the chair, though, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
please? Thank you.
To find a spot in Bedford. We're very pleased to be there. We're relieved we're there and not in the south end of Toledo. We're very grateful. On the same token, we made it through 2008 and all the recession and everything else being in business. We made it through this COVID, and we're not a huge company. And we're not asking for the moon. We're just asking for whatever kind of partnership we can. I unfortunately did not make it to those other 2 meetings. I will be at the meeting Thursday. So I don't know all of the information, so I don't mean to be ignorant on what I'm speaking to. But if this Synchron, if this is a huge problem, yes, I mean, we don't mind paying some towards the roads, but it's got to be the percentage of what truck traffic we have in as a small business. We have a small handful of employees, and we can't shell out that much after going through everything we've gone through with the recession and then with the COVID. So, it might be a $70 million combined payroll, but not every business in there has that high of a payroll. So we're grateful to be in Bedford, like I said, and we just want to try to stay in business. So that's it.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Any more public comment?
Lamar.
Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. I wasn't going to comment on what we just heard in terms of this presentation, but we're passing around a lot of numbers that are kind of floating. I think before you go too far with this, you might get some engineering input as to some of these costs, because projects like this have a tendency to overrun relatively easily, particularly, and I'm sure our engineer could tell you, you start digging into some of these roads, and all of a sudden you find that the base isn't any good. Now we got to spend some money on the base. Then we got to do some cracks. Whoops, wait a minute, now we got a little bit of a drainage issue here. So I think you need to get a little more solid engineering on this project, and then you can make your commitment. Because 175 becomes 195, becomes 205, becomes 215. And again, I support the fact that this industrial park is a valuable asset of this township. And we should do all we can to support their businesses, to support their safety, and support the fact that they get 100 trucks a day in and out of there. So, again, I just counsel you to get more information before you make a final commitment. My next points, which I really wanted to talk about, is 6B and 8G. We'll start with 8G first. 8G involves taking this parcel from the bank. I don't want this to become deja vu again. Let's go back to the Jackman Smith parcel that we bought. Then we said, whoops, we better do a phase 1, found issues, better do a phase 2, spent more money. Then finally we said, oh, we got to fix all of this. So you spent money on something that should have been done first before you actually purchased the property. So, but again, that's hindsight. But let's talk about this bank property for a moment. It's immediately adjacent to, or pretty damn close to, a brownfield. It was a brownfield when the bank came in and said, we're going to do some work here. And they should have done a lot of due diligence before they started the process, because they had some problems with DEQ at that time, saying, well, wait a minute, we don't know if you're going to get a brownfield advantage or not. So the bank did, in fact, fix the problems. The parcel that we're talking about was not part of the original brownfield work. So as the township completed any due diligence on this parcel, have you had any engineering people look at it? Do we understand whether or not the plume that was the problem with the brownfield as under this project? The board should consider getting a whole pile of comfort letters about this project. And if you want to know what a comfort letter is, I'm sure council can explain that. You need to get them from agencies. You should be doing some work on this project and this process and find out if this is a problem. Don't walk into this being dumb and happy, because dumb and happy will come back to bite you. So let's talk about the other issue that I want to talk about for a moment. And that has to do with this committee that is going to do work with respect to the COVID money or whatever else it's called. I support that. I think that's an important thing to do. But it doesn't have to do something tomorrow. You have all kinds of time for this committee to do its work, to establish a priority, to establish plans, to figure out what the projects are that meet the satisfaction of the rules and regulations. Get some citizen input. Now, some of the citizens' input may not satisfy the rules and regulations for the use of the money, but at least they have some input. And remember, you got 3 years down the road before you even have to start the projects. So don't do this tomorrow afternoon. You get citizen input, and they'll feel like they're part of the process. Now, there's a lot of money coming in.
Thank
from
you for
the
your
feds.
comments, Mr. Frederick.
Oh, is
Have a
that
good night.
done? All
Yep,
right.
Yep. Any more comments from the public? Okay, all right, seeing none, moving on to 6A, approve the federal procurement conflict of interest policy. Mr. Bob, if you could come on up. Ms. Knapp.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. 6A, we'd like to start talking about the federal procurement conflict of interest policy. To comply with accepting funds, the township is required to have a federal procurement conflict of interest policy. This policy applies when procuring goods and services with federal funds. In a copy, I think the policy is attached.
Okay, any comments, questions from board members?
I think the only thing I had was on page, would be the actual, within the actual policy, B, gifts, the second line, like it's just, it's a nitpicky thing, but that it just says under state law, just that would be crossed out, and then everything else seems straightforward enough to me. I'll make a motion if nobody else has anything.
Nobody else have anything? Go ahead.
So we'll make a motion to, where are we at? Approve the federal procurement conflict of interest policy as amended, I guess, with the slight grammatical fix.
Support. Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Bruning. Discussion?
Could you clarify those again to make sure that it's recorded?
What?
Your amendment.
It's under B, gifts, it just repeats the
It
word
just says state law, state law.
So we're just going to remove one of them.
Oh, I see, it's on 2 lines, that's right, I didn't see it, okay.
Let's call the roll, please.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 6B, create a temporary American Rescue Plan Act Advisory Committee. Up.
I forgot to thank Nicole for all of her hard work.
Well, you just did.
All the seminars she's been to, all the research.
Yeah.
So thank you, Nicole. Appreciate it. We'd like to create a temporary ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act Advisory Committee. There would be no compensation for being on this committee. The purpose of this committee is to come up with a list of projects that Bedford Township can use ARPA money for. This committee will also oversee the gathering of community input. Once all the information is gathered, they would present this information to the Bedford Township Board for approval. This committee would meet once a month or as needed during Bedford Township business hours. Once all ARPA funds have been earmarked, this committee dissolves. We would like to recommend the following members to this committee, a 7-member committee. 3 board members, which would include the clerk, treasurer, and supervisor. 2 members from the general public, Nicole and myself.
The only question I had is preferably no business owners or special interest groups, but why would we put that in there?
What we're looking for is to keep the spirit of ARPA funding in mind. We want to be able to keep all options open. Special interest or business owners might influence money going directly to them. It might happen. It might go to a business. We want to try to keep an open mind.
I guess I would disagree on that, the no businesses, but
We're not preventing them from applying for the committee.
I guess why did we put it in there then? If we feel like a business owner, somebody that lives in the community that's been here for 30, 40, 50 years that could bring a lot to the table that wouldn't be in it for themselves, why wouldn't we want to be able to consider them? If we have that in here, I mean.
I think even if we don't put them on the board, they're going to be welcome to attend the meetings. I mean, it's going to be open to the public, so anyone can attend the meetings.
We just want to make sure that we are truly using it for what it's worth.
Well, sure.
And we want everybody to have an opportunity to be able to really be able to put their input into it. And when you put a business person that has a business in here, you can't help but be biased. You are, we're human, and you could be very biased, and we want to prevent that. And maybe you can't, maybe you can be biased, but we want to make sure we're truly being biased on this and not playing favorites.
I think it's a poor statement from this board to even think that, and especially from the committee, that we're saying a business owner would be biased. I think it's a bad statement to even put, and I think it's a bad statement to put in there. We don't have to put a business owner if we don't want to, but open it up to the public. That's all I'm saying. Mr. Steiner, do you have a question? It's frustrating to even see it in there.
What's that?
Nothing. It's just frustrating seeing that comment in there.
So a couple things. As Mr. Frederick stated about the time frame we have to earmark this money and have plans in place. I agree. We've got plenty of time to do that. But on the other side, I would hope that we have a committee that does start moving very quickly. Because when it comes to planning, we all know that, especially if it's a big project, you don't plan overnight and say, okay, let's start it next month. It takes a lot longer than that. The monthly meetings, which of course would be public and public's able to attend, but the one thing that I would like to see differently is you talk about the monthly meetings that it clearly states that it's during the township business hours. So that's going to limit the public from having any opportunity to speak. So I would say maybe stagger a few meetings because you want the public to come in, and make a recommendation to the public, though, because we all know that if you have 50 people that want to come up to the podium, maybe if you said any comments or suggestions of what we could do with the funds, please send them to the township at minimum of 1 week prior. That way, if 10 out of 50 have the same comment, you can get it narrowed down, and then we have a document to go from, so when everybody comes in, you could address, say, what 40 people said, and now you've limited it down to the other 10 ideas that the other 10 people have.
Our goal, too, is to be able to get the community input, too, whether a survey or something also with the committee being able to create something.
And you're going to be able to get that done during the day. Let's be honest.
Right.
We did a master plan last time and opened it up to the public, did evening meetings, and this is the most important document your community does, and 5 people show up. So I don't buy the whole having it in the evening. Yeah, I mean, you have just as many people, if not more, that don't work or are involved, could be involved during the day.
Well, if you have a meeting or maybe 2, and that's exactly what happens, then you don't schedule another evening meeting. Yeah, you move them all to the business hours.
I had another question. Touching on what Mr. Frederick said, I talked to Bob earlier about the survey. To reach more members of the community, are you guys are planning on doing a survey to get public input?
We're hoping the committee, with the committee, to be able to create one, yes.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, this committee does nothing without this board's approval.
Correct.
Anything that spends fund, this board's going to tell
Right.
yes. So, I mean, either way, we're involved directly throughout the process anyways. And as far as moving quickly, I think we couldn't move any quicker. I mean, we're exactly the timeline we need to be. When nobody's sitting on their hands and not doing nothing, but, I mean, they're forming committees and people are involved in some, you can only go so fast. There's only so much information coming out. So
I think with Mr. Miller taking the charge, I don't think we have that problem.
No.
So he's ready to go. He's going to keep things in line. So.
Okay. Any comments or questions? I'm fine with as long as we take out preferably no business owners. I think that's a poor thing to put in there, Mr. Montreal.
I would agree. I think that seems discriminatory. What is the process? Because I guess you basically have the majority, and I feel like that seems agreeable, except for the other 2. What's going to be the process for the other 2?
Applications?
They'd submit the applications to the clerk's department like any other board or commission would do.
So do we have a timeline for that?
That was my
We should probably set one.
Yeah.
And so you set a timeline for that. What is the end goal timeline, Bob? I know we have time, but like, is there a timeline for having your plans together or whatever it may be?
Nope, like I said, we do have a lot of time, but we also do have to act.
No.
I guess the first thing is to get the applications out, get the public to respond, and then we have to bring it back to the board for voting.
Well, what I was curious about is like for the overall usage, like if we were saying meeting monthly or as needed, is the plan to have goals established and plans established within 12 months, or is there?
We could rely on the committee to set those timelines.
So there's not requirements within ARPA?
Oh, ARPA, yes. We have to have it earmarked, I can get the exact dates, it's 2024 December.
Okay.
But then we have to have all the contracts signed by then and all the money spent by 2026.
So with the no business owners and our special interest groups, does that mean if they're related, if they have an aunt or an uncle that owns a business, if they're part of a
We can
golf
scrap that
team?
line through an amendment.
I think we should. I think it's a bad idea to put that in there, personally, because you can.
So who's going to select the two from the public? You could get
This board.
100.
The board will.
Right, so we'll have to whittle it down.
Hopefully, we can get through it. Okay, any more comments or questions?
Does anyone have an idea of a timeline to have for applications?
I would start it tomorrow.
I would start it tomorrow and have it a deadline maybe the Tuesday before our first meeting in September.
So we could vote first meeting in September?
Mm-hmm.
So
Do we need more time than that? I mean, we have time. Do we need another till the second meeting in September? Do you think we can get the applications
If you
in?
put it out there
That's
properly
Yeah.
and
We
you
can get
really
it out
push it, get it on the Facebook and,
Just want to make sure the public has enough time.
unless you
to
wait
get
for a
in there.
newsletter and spend a bunch of money, I mean, it's,
Okay.
So anybody here that would like to be involved? Okay. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you.
We need a motion to create this.
You want to do it or I do it?
Mm-hmm.
Want to do it?
I guess, I mean,
Either one.
if you have something worded, go ahead.
No, I was just going to pretty much go with what we just discussed. So I would make the motion to create a temporary ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act Advisory Committee established by 3 board members, which is the clerk, treasurer, and supervisor, 2 members from the public, which applications, the process will start as of August 4th. The applications must be returned to the clerk's office no later than
I'd say the 31st.
August.
I'd say the 31st, because that's the Tuesday.
But she has to have it, because we have to have it for a meeting.
That's what I'm saying, that's the Tuesday.
Is that what it is, Tuesday?
Mm-hmm.
So that would work.
So
Yes.
August 31st, they must be in the clerk's office before close of business on that date. We're going to strike the comment where it says preferably no business owners or special interest groups at this time. And then the other 2 township employees, which would be Robert Miller and Nicole Knapp, to serve on this committee. And as I stated, I would like to see some meetings take place in the evening, and if it does not work where there's attendance, then they can go back to all during township business hours as originally presented.
Support.
Okay, motion and support of Mr. Montry. Discussion, Ms. Janizek?
I have an amendment to that it's a non-paid committee.
I will accept that friendly amendment.
Okay. Any more discussion, comments? Okay, could you call the roll?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item number 7, unfinished business, appointment to the Planning Commission. I am recommending to the board to appoint Fred Schwank to the Planning Commission, first term ending 12/31/23. Mr. Schwank is a graduate of the University of Michigan and holds a master's in business administration from Eastern Michigan. Mr. Schwank has an extensive business background and is a longtime resident of Bedford. With Mr. Schwank's education, business background, and knowledge of our community, he would be an excellent choice for planning. So that's my motion, and I would like for the record that I don't know this man. So, never met him. Do I have support?
No. I'll support the motion.
Okay, this motion is supported. Discussion?
I would be open to hearing anyone's apprehensions in terms of Mr. Swank's abilities to serve on this committee. I do know Mr. Swank, and at the very least at a acquaintance level at the very least, and he's an upstanding member of our community. He's a solid Christian man who's beyond qualified for this position. He would be a great fit. In my consideration, he'd be a great fit for the Planning Commission.
Okay, any more discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
No.
Mr. Steiner?
No.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
No.
Hirschberger votes no.
And the motion failed 5-2, and another great candidate gone. Okay, moving on. 4-3, I'm sorry. Forgot we had one extra one there, okay. 8A, vouchers for payment. Ms. Hirschberger?
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund in the amount of $82,295.97. Fire District, $22,023.76. Police Fund, $59.39. Park Fund, $4,241.81. Fire Equipment, $31,138.68. Transit System Fund, $8,556. Library Fund, $4,286.21. Water Revenue Fund, $2,369.58. Downtown Development Authority, $1,576.91. Sewer O&M Fund, $558,986.35. Trust and Agency Fund, $20,000, $564.50, for a grand total of $736,099.16.
Support.
Okay, motion supported by Ms. Januzak. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8B, resolution for a charitable gaming license for Bedford Express Boosters. Ms. Januzak, or Ms. Hirschberger?
The Bedford Express Boosters, the robotics team at the high school, has asked us to approve a resolution for them to submit to the state for their local charitable gaming license. So if there's no objection, I'll make a motion that we approve the local governing body resolution for charitable gaming licenses for the Bedford Express Boosters as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion supported by Ms. Januzak. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8C, service agreement between Bedford Township and the Monroe Conservation District. Ms. Veliquette, come on up. I asked Ms. Veliquette to come. She's a huge advocate for them, and I thought with the new members of the board and first time approving it, we should get some education.
Well, I appreciate you letting me speak with you tonight. My name is Connie Veliquette, 6684 Greenbrier Lane, Temperance. And especially for the new board members, the state of Michigan stopped funding conservation districts back, I think it was 2006. That really hurt all of our districts. And since that time, we've been going to our county and also going to the townships to get funding, which Bedford has always been very gracious to help us. And that's, I'm asking you to agree to approve the service agreement this year as you have in the past.
Okay. And Mr. Goldsmith, can you speak to the fact of the township donating funds to this organization?
Yes, we've done it consistently for these, I can't remember how long, but it's been consistent, I think.
But it's allowable under law.
Oh, it's allowable, yes,
Well-
absolutely. And just about the county does it, and I think every township within Monroe County does
There's
it.
a few of the townships that can't, they just can't. They're too small and they just can't do it.
Okay.
But
Yes.
like Erie couldn't, and now they came back on this last year.
They just approved it at their last meeting. But yes, it's an allowable expenditure for the township to make. It's for a public purpose.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
I look for a motion.
Oh, okay.
Make the motion to accept the request for the board to approve $1,000 contribution to the Monroe Conservation District as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Gore. Any more discussion? Mrs. Veliquit, if you want to say anything else, feel
Well,
free.
I just want to thank you for your consideration.
Okay. All right, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Okay, item 8D, resolution to authorize Consumers Energy to replace the streetlight at the intersection of Lewis Ave and Dean Road. Ms. Hirschberger?
I think this is the last one. I thought the last ones were the last ones. So I have three motions. First motion, to approve the authorizations for change in the standard lighting contract number 10000289585 dated 12/1/2015 and contract number 1030219767727 dated 2/16/2016 as presented.
Support.
Motion in support of Ms. Januzak. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0.
My next motion is to approve the resolution authorizing Consumers Energy Company to make changes in the lighting service provided in the standard lighting contract to remove the light at the intersection of Lewis Avenue and Dean Road at no cost to the township as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported. Discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing Consumers Energy Company to make changes in the lighting service provided in the standard lighting contract to install a new light at the intersection of Lewis Avenue and Dean Road at no cost to the township as presented.
Second.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Ms. Januzak. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Okay, item 8E, accept a bid to tear out and replace the asphalt back parking lot of Fire Station 3. So we obviously did not budget enough for this. We budgeted roughly $10,000. I think we're right there, Bob, correct? And that will do the fix. We did not get bids just to do a fix. We got bids to replace the back half of the parking lot. The problem is this wasn't built for a fire department. This was a used car lot. So we have an 80-something thousand pound apparatus that's driving on it in 80, 90, 100-degree weather and turning on it. It's good. I don't know if doing another fix is going to hold up for the long haul. So it might behoove us to really do some more investigation and possibly do concrete just in the areas where the fire truck turns and parks and pulls out for the bay for getting washed up, rather than just throwing $90,000 of asphalt down and hoping for the best. Now, the companies that are bidding on it, they know the heavy equipment that's going to be on it, and they say it'll hold up. So I don't know. I mean, the problem is it's, such a slanted parking lot, and, Mr. Montre?
I don't know if Barry or Chief I went over and looked at that today. The spot that the issue is looks like it was recently.
It was a cheap patch job to patch up a junk spot from last year. That's what we did. We spent a couple $1,000s to get a patch job. It didn't hold.
That's the part where it's all.
You know, it didn't hold.
tore
It
up.
slid out, but it's the whole thing now. The whole thing's sliding out, you know. Mr. Steiner?
Yeah, and you do make a good point when it comes to that big rig. It's not just the weight on that apparatus, and when you take those duals on the rear of that apparatus and you start to turn, that that blacktop starts to turn with it, and if you get an 80, 90, 95, 100 degree day, that truck's got to make a turn, they'll tear that blacktop in a heartbeat. So that's something to think about in at least the turning area, or any place where you'll see that kind of motion take place with that rig.
That's why I'm thinking we should just consider the patch. You know, I don't know if the board wants to go out for bids to do a patch job. You know, we do have one bid, I think, here for the patch job, or if it's the company we do a lot of business with, but, and then do some studying next year. We obviously, like I said, we did not budget $90,000, but I don't know how many people have driven back there, but it is a problem. It's failing.
It's bad.
So, what's the pleasure of the board, Mr. Steiner?
Just
Yeah, you can come up, Chief, if you want to speak to it.
Just an off-the-wall question, and if I could ask Mr. Miller to come back up for one quick second. You can come up, Chief. You'll be right here with him. You'll be right here with him. So, just a question is, I obviously haven't read through everything anywhere near what you and Nicole have read through on the ARPA. I know there's some talks of infrastructure, there's talks of certain safety things like that. And you may not have an exact answer, but do you have any belief that there could be an outside chance? Because we can't buy a rig with ARPA funds. But from a safety standpoint of having a piece of equipment, fire apparatus, being able to operate safely, do you believe there's any possibility that any ARPA funds could be brought over to do something with the infrastructure of that property?
Yes.
Okay. So that's something to think about. I mean, again, I don't want to just say, oh, well, hey, we got a project, let's just throw money at it. But I'm looking at it from a budget standpoint. Did we budget 90, 100 grand? No, we didn't. Do we have potential there? So let's not rule that out.
Well, if it's something that can be used, then I think we should really look at the concrete aspect of where the
Absolutely.
truck turns. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I think
So you
you're just
might
going to have problems down the road again.
You might end up with another 25, 30 grand on top of it to do that one section in concrete, because you're not going to do the whole place.
Yeah, I mean, Chief knows where that truck mainly is, where it turns, and, you know, maybe we just do some sections of concrete or something, but.
That's kind of my question.
Well-
Like, it's not where it was messed up is not where I was expecting it to be, and that's what I would be curious. How much area would you think in that back lot would need concrete?
It would be something we'd have to look at. So this isn't, this is a similar to what we had up at Station 1, that parking lot, just the heavy trucks in and out of that parking lot up there. We completely had to replace that last year. We're seeing Station 3 with the exact same thing this year. The concern that we've seen even in the past few months, so last year we had that section that you probably was most prevalent, but now we're seeing it all the way along and all the way across to the back. So when we were discussing it, looking at it from just making a repair this year, we were kind of hesitant. If it's going to be completely replaced next year, I guess maybe Mr. Bushman or somebody could look at it. Is it even worth putting that money into this year if it has to be a complete replacement? Even is the $10,000 sensible this year if it's got to come out anyway? We know it's going to deteriorate and deteriorate faster, but given that that entire back parking lot is really starting to show some problems, I'm not even convinced, although I'm not an asphalt expert, that even right now, another repair this year that we know is going to fail or have to be torn out next year is even sensible.
Well, is it something you guys can get by with till we get some determination of when we can
I would
use the
assume
funds
so,
for it?
but maybe somebody that's a little sharper and.
Well, I know it's
and
rough. I
asphalt.
mean, it's
Yeah.
sliding.
Could look
I
at
mean,
it and see
you
if
know.
it's something we could put off altogether and then just look at it a little closer, so.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion that we table it for now and do some more investigation then. Okay, motion is supported, Mr. Gore. Any more discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, and the motion passed 7-0. Well, before we get too deep in this one, Bob, can we use ARPA funds for the roof at the historic building?
Well, we're going to have to talk to the committee, but yes.
But is it a possibility to use the funds for that?
There could be a slight possibility, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so item 8F, accept a bid to replace the roof at the Banner Oak School at 23 East Stearns Road. Okay, so we have the bids here. We budgeted $35K. We have roughly $6,000 that's got to be used this year from a grant. So we're short about $7,500 from the lowest bid. You know, if we wait, you know, we're probably not going to be able to get the work done this year. But if it is something that we could use the funds for and save out of our general fund, I think it's something we definitely should consider again. I mean, Trudy, how long can we put this on hold with the current bids that we have before we lose them? What's it?
I'm not sure what they gave us. It would say in their bid document.
What's the thoughts of the board, Mr. Steiner?
Quick question, and I don't know if I could direct this to Mr. Goldsmith or if it has to go back to Mr. Miller. Again, the big if funds like this were possible out of ARPA funds. If the township paid for this up front and we find that ARPA funds can be used, can the township general fund be reimbursed out of that to pay for that? Or does it have to be from the very beginning and earmarked up front?
The funds are restricted. I think Bob probably knows the answer to this. But I think we have to be very careful, and Bob can probably address whether or not there's any specific, because they're restricted funds only to be used for specific purposes.
Right.
Whether or not there's any specific bid process that we have to go through to use those funds. So I guess I have more questions than I have answers, but I think
Well, that's why I'm saying, because from what I watched and what I've looked into, I didn't think we could use it for a parking lot. I mean, I don't know everything about it. You guys have done a lot of research as well, but that's why I'm.
Well, I think the parking lot, because they were so involved with COVID, the fire department, and
Okay.
that did damage to that lot, using them so much that the COVID money can use for that one. The roof, though, I want to
would-
hear this one.
That would
Yeah.
surprise me.
There is one condition on there, revenue loss. I know we don't have a whole lot of revenue loss, so there's not a whole lot of money there. But once we get all the confirmations about that, that may be our slight avenue for that.
Because due to COVID, we couldn't have any school children go there for field trips or anything like that.
Well, it's a condition called revenue loss, is the actual section of the ARPA funds. If we can show a revenue loss, that might be a small possibility to go down that route. But we've got to get that confirmed first.
Yeah, they don't make a profit on it.
Not going to generate really, that would be real slippery.
So the
Doesn't
slight
sound very
possibility
promising.
is there at this point. Is it 100% confirmed? No. But the possibility is there, yes.
You're talking about the roof or the
School.
school? Okay, all right.
Yep.
Mr. Gore?
The only concern I have is we just, a short time ago, approved to have a committee, and we've already got 2 items on the list, possibly at $150,000 total, and we only have $3.3 million.
That's right.
$3.3 million, I know it sounds like a lot of money, but in these types of projects, it's really not a lot of money.
That's why we'll have to refer this to committee.
The fire department, I can see waiting and using the 90,000, but for the, I mean, just on a slight possibility, I don't know,
I think we should move forward with it,
I think
to
so
be honest
too.
with you.
How about the issue of reimbursement, Bob? If it were learned that that avenue, due to revenue loss, was available, can the general fund be reimbursed, or haven't you got that far into it yet?
Those answers are still or those questions are still unanswered. We do know that we can go back and do certain reimbursements for other items, but for this specific situation, we have to wait for more clarification.
It doesn't sound like we'd be able to get much funds back from that anyways, you know what I mean? I don't think you'd be able to cover the whole cost
Right,
of the
a couple
roof.
things is, one, I wouldn't count on it, and two, the committee still has to go through ever how many requests we get. I don't know where the money's going to go, how they're going to prioritize it.
But you could be looking for the $7,000 unbudgeted portion instead of the entire thing, is what I'm saying. So it's something to think about.
Okay.
One of the bids is 30 days, the other one is 60.
In
personally
the
think
in
we
the
should move
last
forward.
page in our bid invitation, it says all bids will remain for a period of 60 days. I don't know if that's.
But I don't
That's
think
what
that's
we
going to
said.
get, I don't think that's going to give us enough time to figure out if we can get funds. I mean, we're going to have 30 days and 45 days possibly to get full members, and then you got to meet. And
then
Takes
there's
a lot
a lot
of
of
time to get your
planning.
feet wet.
Will we have to do a budget resolution for an additional $7,000 or at a-
Unless there's a
at
way.
another meeting, or?
Can we pull funds out of another area to
You
cover
could pull it from another line item.
without doing a budget adjustment?
Right, but remember, when you pull that money out of that line item, whatever you set that line item for, that money won't be there. So if you pull out a general maintenance, eventually, a budget resolution probably will be required.
To put the money back in, if you need
Right.
it, in that particular line item.
Right.
Right.
Okay, I look for a motion.
Which company were we talking about going with, the 48,680?
I don't know either one of the companies. I think they're both good companies. I mean,
I would say the low bid,
you know, I
The
go
low
with the
bid.
low bid, but
because I believe the low bid gave the 20-year warranty on it too at no extra charge.
Mhm.
I'll go ahead and take a shot at the motion. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept the bid to replace the roof at the Banner Oak School located at 23 East Stearns Road from Royal Roofing for the amount of $48,680, with the Monroe County Museum grant accounting for $6,000 and $35,000 coming was allocated out of this budget year, and we'll have to take an additional $7,000 out of another line item.
I'll second.
okay, motion supported by Mr. Steiner.
And-
Discussion.
And just comment that it's not even a friendly amendment, but I will say that they also provided a copy of their certificate of liability insurance. They have a number of references. There's some decent-sized cities that they've done some work for, some good-sized projects. So, I mean, I'm sure the other company probably would do fine too, but this just has some real good backup and proof of history behind it.
All right, call the roll, please.
Mr. Gore?
Support, aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8G, transfer property located at 9031 Lewis Ave from First Merchants Bank to Bedford Township. Mr. Goldsmith, I'm going to let you handle this one. We kind of tabled it last meeting to give you some direction to get with the Kevin at First Merchants, and I don't think we have everything needed. We have some stuff, but I don't think we're going to be able to hit our deadline for the appraisal or, you know, the window for that, but go ahead.
I guess one thing that the First Merchants representative did tell us that he thought that that deadline could be extended.
Okay.
If the townships had interest in. And there are two documents that Mr. Peroni and I asked the bank to produce, and I don't think it's them not wanting to share with us. The documents were actually produced by their outside contractor, TTL, and I think it's just a matter of them getting their hands on it to show us. But while we were waiting for that documentation, I ordered a title commitment from Hassett Title Company, because I've dealt with these before, and I knew that what the title commitment might reveal is a restrictive covenant that was recorded against the property, and in fact, that's the case. There is a declaration of restrictive covenant for a restricted non-residential remedial action, and it specifically applies to this particular parcel that's currently owned by First Merchants Bank and that they have proposed to donate to Bedford Township. So the important parts of this restrictive covenant, and I'll summarize it, it's a several-page document. I've read it and actually twice. There was contamination on this site that migrated from a site to the north, to the immediate north. And Mr. Frederick, who spoke earlier, was familiar with that because I think he was a supervisor at the time the Brownfield Authority was established by the township and dealt with this situation, this contamination situation. So there was underground storage tanks at the property to the immediate north for a dry cleaning operation and for a service station that you're all too young, you don't remember it, but I remember it as a little boy growing up in Temperance. They were there, and those tanks, in fact, they had releases. So there's petroleum substances that were released, and there was PCE substance, which is tetrachloroethene, that was released. And that migrated to the south, and it had to be cleaned up. And there were many modern monitoring wells that were established there. And the site has been cleaned up to the extent that it could be cleaned up. And Eagle has, we think, signed off on it. That's one of the letters that we're waiting for. And then the TTL final approval. Here's what you can't do at the site. You can't build anything there. You can't have any residential dwelling units there. And that's important, and from the standpoint that there's the Temperance Overlay District there that would allow generally for a residential use to be there in connection with a commercial use. So you can't do that. So that this property can never be built upon. This restrictive covenant is perpetual. It goes on forever. So unless that it's amended in writing, and it would have to be approved by the state of Michigan to do that, and I can tell you that's not going to happen.
Well, that's a good thing, because the only thing I was interested in was a parking lot or green space.
A green space is okay.
Oh.
A parking lot, I'm hesitant with a parking lot because looking at the topography there, in order to put a parking lot there, you're going to have to remove several feet of soil, and you're going to have to put a base in to put the parking lot in. So that's going to trigger, once you disturb the soil at a site like this that has a restrictive covenant, we would have to have a company come in and to be, first of all, the soil that's removed would have to be sent to a regulated landfill. That would have to be approved by Eagle. Eagle would have to come in and look at the site and make sure that by disturbing the soil and doing excavation, that it's not going to be to a depth that would disturb any of the hazardous material that still may be there in the soil or that still may be migrating through that area. So,
but it's a real possibility you could put a parking lot there. You just have to go through some,
yeah,
you know.
I'm not going to say that it could be done without further engineering because it would require further contact with Eagle, and it would require movement of, whenever you disturb soil at a site like this, it has a restrictive covenant. You have to remove any of that soil to a regulated landfill. So, you know, what starts out as a gift may not be a gift from the standpoint that we may have to spend money to put that in there if you wanted to put a parking lot.
Let me
in
ask the board a quick question. Is the board interested in taking on this property?
Nope.
If we get, well, that would have been a good, something good to get last meeting, because we're wasting a lot of time moving forward. So if the board's not interested, even if we have all the letters in place, and I would like to hear from all board members, are we interested or not? If we aren't, let's stop wasting time.
I'd be very interested.
Well, so am I.
And
That's why I
think
have it
my
here.
question would be, we're waiting on 2 more documents, correct? Right? Are those going to tell us one way or the other, or would we need further like information from Eagle to know like what we're going to be able to do with the property? Or will these documents that we're waiting on give us clarity in that regard?
Well, it'll give us clarity. I may come back to the next meeting and say,
Hold
no,
on,
don't do it.
Let me get my question answered first, because that question doesn't even matter. If you have 2 people right here that just said they're not interested, even if you have the letters, are you 2 interested? If you have the letters and everything in place?
If we're going to use it for green space, no, because we're trying to sell pocket parks. If we're trying to sell pocket parks, why are we bringing on a new green space? Because the maintenance department would have to maintain it and keep it up. So that's where my concern is. If we're trying to sell green space, why are we trying to bring more green space in? That's just my concern.
I'm looking at a parking lot. We need
Yeah,
parking.
I would agree.
It only gets 7
I would
spots.
agree with that as well. If just to have it, just to keep it as grass, I think brings no value and not worth the headache.
But my point is it doesn't sound like even if we have everything in place and the parking lot's an opportunity, that the board's interested.
That parking lot sounds like an extremely expensive opportunity.
If it were
Because I
the size
think
of this township hall, yes, it's the size of this room.
It's only 7 spots.
It's not huge. So we're not talking millions of dollars here. We're talking a very small area. Will it cost
I
a
would
little bit
need
extra? Yes,
so
but
much
not.
more information on cost.
All I'm saying is I'm spending a lot of time getting the information we need here to this board. Mr. Steiner, are you interested if we have everything in place?
Not really. I'm just concerned of the overall cost benefit. And you were probably pretty close when you said maybe 7 parking spots if we took that space on.
That's huge for downtown Temperance.
But that's also a lot of blacktop. You got to go through site plan, engineering. You're looking at some pretty hefty costs in there.
Okay.
Maybe we should, instead of taking on something that doesn't sound like anybody's really interested in, invest money into our parking lot where the Lions Den, because that has, I think, like 22 spots that we could open for the general public to use. It's just a thought.
I'm bringing an
I mean, I'm
opportunity
looking
here
at
that I've
it
been working on.
thinking-
If the board's not interested in it, let's move on.
I just keep
And we want to talk
thinking
about the
of
lines then.
DEQ or Eagle or whatever, the old Buddy's gas station, when they tore that down, what was the cost to haul that mess out of there and clean that up?
The bank has spent $1 million cleaning up the site. You know,
And we would
that
have
was
to do more of that
well,
if
that-
we dug into it.
The Buddies was cleaning up the site like the bank did. That was about an $800,000 project as well. The site's cleaned up. Now, what Phil's saying is if you disturb the land to do a parking lot, which is probably something that's permissible to do, you're not talking huge dollars. All I'm saying is if the board is not interested, even if everything's in place, let's move on.
Move on.
Well, I've heard what you said a few times, so I mean, I'd like to hear what all the other board members think.
I'll move on unless we get more accurate figures.
But I know I don't want to waste any more time trying to get accurate figures if nobody's interested. That's my point.
I'm not interested.
I don't think it would be as expensive as you might think to put the parking lot in because of the space. I think that the few spaces, as minimal as they are, I feel like that would make a big difference in downtown Temperance for those few more spaces. I think Lions Den parking lot is gorgeous, and I think anything of that being available that will definitely provide additional parking.
I was talking about the maintenance garage, our maintenance garage right there, almost
Oh,
catty corner.
That's what he's- I thought
There's
that-
like 22 spots sitting there that
But I'll be honest
nobody's
with you,
using.
that's
It would
utilized a lot by the maintenance department. They drive all their trucks through there, they back all their trucks in and out of there, or it would be an issue having all the spots
through
full
the-
all day, every day.
Not through the parking area, though.
Huh?
They don't drive through the parking.
They have their garage right there in the parking area. That's where they park all their.
They drove too
No,
much
parking
through
spots.
there when
Most
the
of their stuff
line
is
sign
around the
was
back.
there.
Not them 4 first bays in the parking lot. That's where they pull all their equipment in. I'm just saying, it would, I'm
It
telling
was
you, it
just
would be an
another
issue.
thought I thought I'd
No, it's a
throw
good
out there
idea.
with.
If the board's interested,
And we
it's
already
a
own
good
the
idea.
property.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
per
what
se.
I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. Okay, so I'm gonna drop it at this point then, if nobody's interested, so let's move on. So do we need well, actually, we need I say we take a vote. So,
You got to make a motion.
do we have a motion? Because my emotion is gonna be to move forward with it. So, somebody else wants to make a motion, Mr. Bruning, you got a motion?
I'm not making a motion. I don't want it.
I'll make.
Yeah, that's what he means.
That's what I mean, to make.
I'll make a motion that we do not accept the property donation from First Merchants Bank at 9007 Lewis Avenue as presented.
I'll support that.
Okay, motion is supported, Mr. Bruning. Any more discussion? I think it's a wasted opportunity, personally, to get a free piece of property for transfer fees and have an opportunity for our residents that are hurting bad. Some businesses that I personally know of, that need parking spots, and we have an opportunity and we're not taking it.
Well,
So
we should work on that other parking lot.
I agree. That's a great opportunity too. So, okay, could you call the roll?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Nay.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
No, and the motion passed 5-2. Okay, moving on to comments from.
You said like opening to the public for like, do we need to do anything to make those couple of spots in the old Lions Den available?
Why don't
or
we
is
put that on
there-
the next agenda? We'll do some homework on it. I'll put it on the next agenda. We'll be prepared about it. Okay, comments from the public. Comments limited to 2 minutes for each individual. Come on up. You just line up, everybody. Just come on up.
We need their name. I mean, their name and
Yep, make sure you leave your name and phone number. Or not your phone number, name and address, I'm sorry. Not your phone number. Did you say phone number?
Yeah.
Did you say phone number? That's why. Is that?
Jim Hunter, 1025 Valletta. We have this special assessment district opportunity presented to us for the roads. My question is, when I called in earlier this year to inquire the status, because we started this a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was told last year because of COVID, there were no estimates, nothing going on. This year when I called in, they said the reason for I didn't speak to Trudy, but somebody in Trudy's office said the reason for the delay was we were going to be presented with 3 proposal costs because the first proposal that was presented to the township, they knew was too high for us. We got a letter that we were only offered 1 proposal, and I'd like to know who the brain surgeon is that decides to put culverts in as a fix. Why weren't we offered the 3 different proposals that I was told we would be offered? We were given no choice other than this is your only option, take it or leave it. My second question would be, I'm getting conflicting information. Who technically owns the roads in that subdivision? Is it the township or is it the county? Because last year when we had a sewer issue, we were told it was the county. Now the county's telling us it's the township's property.
Just so you know, that the board doesn't answer questions at commenting time. We'll answer them in board comment time, just so you know. I don't want just, so everybody knows.
Comer Carey, I
You
live
writing
at
down.
1024.
I'm trying to write them down.
You writing down questions? Okay.
All right. Comer Carey, I live at 1024 Borg, and I do have just a statement. I have no questions. The 3 to 4 members of our petition committee for the Wanda Estates road replacement project initiated a petition for the road replacement August and September of 2019 and was signed by a great majority of the people. On November 2019, we met with Trudy. At the meeting, we were told that the cost would be between $7,000 and $10,000 for each resident. There were some concerns about issues with storm sewers, but the project seemed to move forward. Many of us then went to Paul Peroni and asked for his help. He told us that the storm sewers were not under his control, but that he would check it out. Paul Peroni called the appropriate county level people. Paul and the county people walked our sewer line and found a large clog under Lewis Avenue. The clog was bored out and the water problem was relieved for the members of our of our group, especially those on Valletta. Many of us went back to Trudy to continue the project. Nothing happened, and I'm talking about for months. COVID started to kick up, and Trudy told us that nothing would happen until COVID was over. Many of us pressed for a virtual meeting or any kind of information from Trudy's office, but nothing came to us. When we continued to stop and ask about the project, Trudy told us that the cost would be discussed with 3 different options: $10,000 for scrape and repave, $12,000 for a swale and road, and $15,000 for full sewers underneath this road. Trudy told us a letter would follow. The letter we received on Monday, July 26th, showed only one option, being a swale or ditch. The road at a cost of $15,800 per resident. I will pass this on. Thank you. I'm sorry. You see where you are?
Yes.
Sorry. Right there.
Okay.
And you have to introduce yourself.
Yes. Gloria Tross. I live at 1023 Borg. Well, I'll finish Mr. Carey's statement.
Just
Okay,
pull
that's
your
it.
microphone down so we can hear you.
Oh, okay,
Thank you.
sorry. With a cost of $15,800 per resident and a deadline for removing our names from the petition. Public hearing would be scheduled after we either did or didn't remove our names. When we had tried to contact Trudy, she was out of town on vacation until, I guess, yesterday. We're here tonight because we have not been treated correctly and timely in this important matter, and even more important, that a road project will almost double in cost and take 3 years total to complete. So we would like an immediate public meeting with Trudy to rectify this situation. And just some comments I had personally put together. I was also part of the team that went around with the petitions. There's definite interest in having the road repaved. I mean, everyone agrees that it's a mess. We need a new road. However, we in good faith, I felt we told people about the 3 options and the potential cost. And over the past 2 years, my husband and I have come to the Township Hall several times to check on the progress and, didn't really get anywhere. At first, we were given $3 amounts. Then, sometimes they didn't have anything. Then we were told we couldn't have a meeting because of COVID. Okay, no options in the letter. There aren't any options other than the $15,800 with a note on the bottom of the sheet, the proposal that additional cost for project financing, bonding would be added. Anyway, the only option is for the ditches, and we don't want ditches, in our subdivision. So personally, speaking for my husband and I. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. That was perfect.
My name is Lee Grau at 1014 Borg Temperance. One, I do not want a ditch with culverts on my property. This is a very nice development in Bedford Township. It is brick houses, well maintained. And I would really like to know who does your math. I really would. You're telling me that it's going to cost about $136.93 a month for the first month, but there's no interest on that. It says right there, there's no interest on that. So math is my thing, business. So I did a little thing. So I figured out, so for each month, from the start to the end, it deducts $3.51 a month. So we started at $136 for the first month, and we end up with a total of $20,223.96 at the end of the first, at the end of the 15 years. So I just kind of played around a little bit, so I bumped it up to 150. Personally, I think it'll probably go up more like 180 or 200 the first year. So I played around and I added $3.50 to every year, but I started with 150. I came out with $22,577.40. So for anybody to sit there and tell me it's going to cost $15,000 They have not done the math. Also, I have driven up and down Jackman, Dean, and Stearns Road, and yes, there are ditches. Do you realize that when anybody mows, that you have to drive down a ditch and come back up, and you're out on the road when you do that? So then you have to turn around on the road and drive back down the other way. And the post office is going to stop delivering my mail because the hole out in front of my house is about that deep.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night. Appreciate it.
Hi, Lynette Fisher. I live at 3405 Deepwood. My husband and I also own Gathered Creations at 9037 Lewis Avenue. We were kind of excited at the thought of the property being given to the township for parking or possibility of parking. We are one of those small businesses that kind of sit off the back end. We have a little building. There's not a lot of parking around. So we have run into issues all the way along with being able to find parking that's safe for the different people that come into our shop. So with you guys deciding that, I would just ask that parking in downtown Temperance would really be a serious thing so that we can continue with having businesses down there. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night.
Jeff Ross, 1023 Borg. I think what we've done is put the cart in front of the horse, because we have, originally we started out 2 years ago.
Mr. Charles, can you pull your microphone up? That's okay. Yeah, it's just...
So, originally we started out 2 years ago and we had a figure, and we had three options, and all of a sudden it comes to our attention that we don't have any choices, and we're going to have a meeting. In the meeting, you have to have a certain number of people pass, and if you don't have enough people that want the road at the new cost, you then don't have a meeting. It seems to me you need a meeting to understand, for all of us to understand why we need to spend all this extra money. So it seems like the cart is in front of the horse. We need the meeting, but we're not going to have the meeting if we don't have enough people that want the road. But it just seems backwards. It doesn't seem right. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Marilyn McAfee, 1237 Borg Avenue, Temperance. I've been a resident of Borg Avenue for over 50 years. And Wanda Estates has never had ditches, ever. The only ditches were empty lots where there was no home. When we went through the first phase of sewers and water, and the roads were put back, we had sewer lines in front of our, storm sewer lines in front of our properties. So your option of swales or ditches is not going to flow with us. And the cost is ridiculous. That's sort of an insult to the people in Wanda Estates. So I'd like to take my name off of the petition tonight. So I hope you will make that available to me. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night.
Dennis Smith, 1154 Borg Avenue. I have been in this subdivision since 1960. I've seen what legacy subdivision did to the roads. When they put it in, they destroyed that road. I see where Giant Oak uses Valletta, and it cannot hold all the traffic coming off Lewis in there. So if we do the roads, we have to address all the traffic going on Valletta, and they have to have some kind of responsibility, not just pay one share. They should strengthen that road there. And as far as drainage, I don't know where those roads drain at. I own a house at 1195, and there was two lots. I took half the lot, and the other neighbor took the other lot. And eventually, they built a house there. There was a ditch in front of that lot. And they built a house there, and all of a sudden, the ditch disappeared. I don't even know if there's even tile under there. So all this stuff's got to be looked at. So that's, and one more thing, we need to address the burning of leaves. You're looking at a person that has respiratory problems, and that is a serious problem for the seniors. And I would like to see this board address it or just ban all burning in Bedford Township. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night.
My name is Audrey Dennis. I live at 1192 Borg in Temperance. I just want to add my thoughts on the ditches. It's just not appropriate for our subdivision. It would be ghastly, a huge step backwards. I can't even imagine the inconvenience of, I mean, we got a lot of seniors here, and us ladies can't be pushing our mowers up and down ditches. It's just not manageable at all. It's disgusting. And I also think that there's got to be an easier way to do this, that we can get an improved road without going in debt for the next 20 years or 15 years, whatever it is. We're citizens here too. We can't afford that. We're seniors. A lot of us are on fixed incomes. We don't have that kind of money. Plus, I understand that debt goes with me if I sell that house and don't specify that the new owner owes it. That's not right. My comments.
Thank you for your comments.
Jim Hunter, 1025 Valletta. Apparently, based on the reaction here, I think we need to have a meeting before just put your name on a list, put your name off a list. I think we need to have a meeting. This needs to be discussed in greater detail than we can obviously do here in comments.
Thank you, Jim.
Tom Nonamaker, 1015 Borg Avenue. The question I have is just what happened to the three options that this all started with? And why did we not get presented the three options like this whole thing began with? And that's my big question with this. As to what it ends up being, we need roads. They're terrible in front of my home, just terrible. But we need more options. And that's when this was all presented to me, when I signed the document, it was we're going to have three different options to choose from. And I would ask that we get those. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments from the public? Trudy, would you like to have Barry come up and speak for a few minutes?
And I would like to remind everyone that I am just a mediator. I have nothing to do with what was designed, how it was designed, the cost, nothing. It goes through you, through me, with Barry's engineering to the road commission. I am just a middleman. And so Barry will address most of the questions.
Thank you, Trudy. Well, I respect all your comments, and we can do what we can to help answer as many of your questions as we can. Obviously, probably tonight's not the right venue as much as it is to try to get you the right answers or get you some facts. But this has probably been, and I'll try to keep this short because I could go on for half an hour on this particular project. Because we have worked with the Drain Commission, we've worked with the Road Commission, we've worked with the county on this thing to try to figure out some drainage issues and problems and trying to get some relief. Absolutely, the roads are in front of your homes are in terrible condition. The solution to that is relatively simple. It's what we've done for about the last 5 or 6 SADs very successfully. It's what we call a base crush and shape project, where we crush up all the existing asphalt and stone base. We grade it out, and we put about 3.5, 4 inches of brand new asphalt on top of it. And if you can drive any of those roads we've done west of Lewis Avenue and all those subdivisions and numerous other ones, you see that the roads are virtually in perfect condition and have virtually no cracks or distress even 5, 6, 7 years later, and probably have a 20-plus year lifespan, probably 25 or more, really. And that cost is roughly somewhere around $8,000, $8,200 on this estimate.
Hey, guys, can we just let him speak, please?
So, but one of the things that I'm sure all of you are aware of and definitely see out there is the fact that one is water lays a lot on the road, and we, during several of our reconnaissance visits, we went out and looked at the roads and drainage and saw catch basins basically filled with water with no drainage. So on our very first estimate, our first go-around, we said, well, let's try this. We've done this on other subdivisions. It's worked pretty well. We said, okay, let's get the road commission to come out, since these are, keep in mind, local roads under the jurisdiction of the Monroe County Road Commission. The township has no ownership in these roads. There is no such thing as a township road. It's all under the jurisdiction of the road commission. Unfortunately, the road commission does not put any money into local roads in subdivisions. They never have, and as far as I know, they've worked for the township on doing road projects in the township, but in terms of a contribution to subdivisions, there's no contribution, either in engineering or design. I mean, they will look at plans that we prepare or somebody else prepares, but generally, that's their level of contribution. No financial to the actual construction. So that's a problem right there, I guess. I mean, but so it burdens the homeowners or citizens. And I've had 2 SADs in my own subdivision that I've had paid out of pocket for also. But having said that, the first time we said, let's just jet all the storm sewers and fix whatever we can't get through. And we tried to do some of that, and the road commission said that's not really working. We asked the road commission to go out and investigate further. The road commission said, okay, we'll do that. They dug up, I don't know exactly how many spots, whether 2 or 3 spots in the various storm sewers within the subdivision, and basically said, we're done. We're not going to dig up anymore. Every place we've dug up is either filled with roots or totally filled with dirt, and we can't get through it, and we're just going to waste a lot of time because all the storm sewers are in a very poor condition, and that even some of the tile aren't even jointed. They're all the old butt end tiles versus the bell and spigot tile. And they said it's not worth our time to even go through there. As far as we're concerned, the only solution is a replacement, remove and replace the storm sewers to provide effective drainage. Generally speaking, if you don't have good drainage, your roads are going to deteriorate pretty quickly. And moisture and water in your subbase is a bad thing. So as part of the project, what we've done is estimate so far is the road replacement, like I said, about $8,200, and which is what we've done on the other projects so far. But we've looked at a storm drainage replacement. As part of that, we had estimated the open ditches. Now, if you don't want open ditches, that's fine. But that was strictly, understand, that was strictly an effort to keep this project from going even higher in cost, because you're removing old pipe in your ditches, and then what we're trying to do, since the storm sewers are very, very shallow out in that subdivision, since they're so shallow that we thought maybe we could grade it so it was still very mobile and just put brand new culverts, 30 foot long or so, in each driveway. We don't have to do that. I mean, we could give you an estimate to tile the whole thing with catch basins just like you have today, but I guarantee that the cost to do that is going to be higher. Now, the estimates, keep in mind, no true engineering has even been done of this. Trudy tells me to go out and do essentially a windshield estimate, which we've done much more than that so far on this particular project. But we haven't designed any storm drainage. We haven't designed anything specifically. That comes after the first petition hearing and the true assessment is created. So limited engineering has been done. But we could provide you a cost. Now you say, are the costs realistic? Why is the cost so high? I mean, we go through enough effort to determine the lengths of the pipe, earthwork required and the like. We look at average unit prices, which we do with MDOT, and we do a tremendous amount of work with MDOT or local agencies. We call contractors that we work with every day. They're local contractors.
Hey, Barry, can I stop you for a second? Is there any way to set up a meeting before they have to pull their signatures off so we can go through all this and answer any
We've
questions?
already had one meeting.
Can we set up another one? Because obviously it seems like, no, hold on. You can't, listen, hold on. Listen. That's what I'm asking right now. Is there any way to get nobody at home can hear you right now. You can't talk in the audience because nobody at home can hear you. So just let me see if I can help you out. Is there a way we can get another meeting since it's been so long and there's so many questions? Is there a way to get another meeting before they have to pull their name off so people can be well informed? Because like Barry said, if you add pipes in the ditches, you're probably going to be at 17, 18,000 a home compared to the 15. It's going to drastically change it. So is there any way you could set something like that up?
I would have
we
to
can
look,
be able to
'cause
get
I
the
have
questions
other-
answers tonight.
No, we're not going to get the answers tonight.
We'll be here till midnight.
Mm-hmm.
So what can we do? Guys, we can't have a conversation back. I'm trying to help and see what we can do here right now before everybody disperses. Is there a way that we could get a meeting before they have to pull their names? I don't know any of that information. So is there a way we can hang out after the meeting and you could just kind of work a little bit with Barry to talk a little bit?
It's already 9 o'clock.
Okay, so.
I can talk to Barry and
Okay.
see if we can come up with something, but I have more than just this SAD going right now too, that have not had any meetings yet.
One of the things that's important to note too, I know timing is important, but timing, it's actually right now is a good time because one of the issues is that this is right now the ideal time to make some decisions, whether it's go, no go, or decide how we're going to go. Because right now, as Trudy mentions, we've got 3 or 4 other SADs. Right now, the township doesn't have enough money in their general fund any longer to fund these projects, which they have in the past, which would mean they'd have to sell bonds. It costs about $30,000 to $40,000 to sell a bond for a project like this. And that's on top of the construction. If we can marry that with 3 or 4 other jobs, we can greatly reduce the cost of the bonding proportionally to each SAD. And I don't know, we have maybe 4 that could possibly go and that we're about ready to have hearings on. So we still have to do the engineering. We still have to have the road commission approve it. The road commission has to bid the project. It is bid. Understand, any project, then the numbers you receive are only based on our best estimate at the time. The road commission does publicly bid and advertise the project, and bids are received, and we take the bids of the lowest, most responsible contractor, and that's the actual amount that you receive, or that's the amount that is, what you're actually going to pay. So anyways, that's all I had for right now. I mean, there's a lot more on this particular project. I won't go into all the drainage outlet across Lewis and all that, which was another substantial length of time that we worked with the county.
Well, the problem there is the water. Yes, the problem got alleviated at the corner of Lewis and Valletta. That was where the issue is. The real issue is when it goes across Lewis Avenue. I worked very closely with Chris Stanley with the road commission. The pipe is collapsed that goes under the tracks and goes into the ditch across the street, across the tracks. So now the water, it goes into that field and this drains down south all the way to Carr Park.
But we have not included
behind all
any
the houses
costs in anything other than the proper subdivision proper.
So I mean, Trudy, you oversee this as far as working with Barry. I don't know where you want to go from here. I mean,
I'll have to talk to Barry and see what I have available.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Barry. Appreciate it.
Okay, sure.
Okay, moving on to comments. Well, public.
No.
One more, you didn't close comments.
Okay.
Yeah, but you've already spoken.
Yeah, the public comments closed, Pete. I mean, you guys can.
You
guys-
didn't close public comments, and I know that one other person tonight spoke twice during public comments, so I just have one comment.
Okay.
My comment is, we all here strongly want to have a meeting before we decide whether to take off our names.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for your comments. We appreciate it. Any comments from Township Board members, Mr. Montry?
Well, my initial comment was going to be, nobody talked to any of the agenda items, so I thought a bunch of citizens were excited about coming to a township meeting and getting involved, and I thought you were an answer to my prayers. But seeing the concern, I think you have a large amount of people that deserve answers and deserve time, and if they said we're here till 10. If we're not going to give them a sincere meeting, let's sit and do it right now, is what I say. The concerned citizens are here.
And that's why I said after the meeting, they can have a meeting. I mean, but they have a lot of questions, you know. I mean, it's more than, they're wondering why it gone from 7 to 10,000 to 15,000. We ain't give them an answer that night right now.
And they deserve it.
Barry, why is it gone from 7 to 10,000 to
Barry's the only one who
15,000?
can answer it.
Well, I think I tried to answer it. I said, the very initial estimate, which was, I don't think we ever gave a 7, but was a 7 to 10 was based off of base crush and shape and jetting storm sewers with very limited repair of storm sewers. That's before we did all the future investigation and found out basically the existing storm sewer is basically non-functional.
Yeah, I just, I mean,
And
as
the road
far as any
commission
other
is
questions, I mean, I really
not
feel like
willing to
they need to schedule a
do
meeting.
any
Schedule a
further
town
work.
hall, or I don't know what you do.
No, they
but
need to schedule a
deserve
meeting
it.
with the
They're here,
engineer and
sitting here
Ms.
all night
Hirschberger
listening to our
and-
nonsense.
Yeah, the
feel
problem
like they
is I
deserve it.
can't answer anything. Barry's the only one that can answer their questions.
Is this project older than these other ones you have?
All right.
No, one of them's the same.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, my comment is I appreciate all you guys being here, and you should come to more than just the ones in negative situations.
Okay, Mr. Steiner.
I'll close for the night.
Okay, Mr. Gore.
Just like to thank everybody for coming. This is a great crowd. I'll echo what Mr. Montre said. Please come to more meetings, especially when we're doing other things. Chief, pass along to Monroe Township our condolences for the loss of their firefighter. I didn't know him personally. I might have worked with him once or twice through my career, but it was a tragic loss and a tragic accident. And he just finished our EMT program, so pass along our condolences. Other than that, everybody have a great night.
Okay, Mr. Bruning.
Nothing extra to add. Everybody have a good night.
Okay, Ms. Janizek.
I want to thank Nicole and Bob for everything that they've been doing with the ARPA funds and all the time that you guys have put into it. So that, and then my son's going to hate me, but I want to wish my son a happy 16th birthday today. So I'm going to go home and celebrate with him when we're done.
Okay, Ms. Hirschberger.
Let me see. I think one of the questions was who owns the roads? That's the Monroe County Road Commission. As far as coming back to me for answers, I couldn't give any answers till I had answers from Barry, and I got them as soon as he could write me up something, so you got answers as soon as I had answers. So that's what took so long with that. And the first year of payments, no, there is no interest for the first year. So that payment, you can pay the whole thing up front and not pay any interest, but the first year's payment is without interest. The rest of them would accumulate interest. Most of these questions were answered in the first meeting that we had. The ones that I'm answering right now were answered in the first meeting.
Hey, Mr. Jim, we're gonna see what we can do for that. Okay.
So that's most of the questions I had. The rest of them Barry would have to take care of. And I don't know, Barry, when you're available, we'll have to get together because I can't answer the questions about all the costs or what's being done or how it's being done. That's all an engineer. So none of that is coming from me. That's coming from the engineers, which Barry will have to answer. We had that first meeting. We went back because the issue of the drainage was so bad, and that's when Barry found out that it was so bad they would have to replace all of it. I've only had one SAD that came to that, and that was Enchanted Forest, and we ended up doing all of that, and their cost was pretty much the same as yours. That's what they ended up paying to repair all of theirs.
Hey, I'm going to let you, I'm going to stay here afterwards. We're going to get some of these questions answered, okay? If I have to go in the clerk's office and find it myself, okay? So we're going to figure it out.
The petition has if one more person removes their name, the petition is dead.
Okay, so hold on. We're going to ask some questions afterwards, so let's just.
So I think that's all the questions that I can answer that aren't engineering dealing with. Barry could answer the rest of them. And for the board, we had our training today on the website. They're telling me that we should be up and running in approximately 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, very good.
For the new website. That's all I have.
I personally see a lot of residents here that are frustrated, and I feel bad for you guys that you're dealing with this. I can sense your frustration. I would be extremely frustrated as well. Hopefully we can get you some answers. The problem is when you're talking 2 years, costs go up. So quite a bit has changed since the start of this, it sounds like. Hopefully we can get you a meeting. Obviously Trudy sets that up with Mr. Bushman and you guys figure something out. I'm not involved in that. So hopefully you guys can get that worked out. But I don't see a reason why they can't have options. If you want to relieve the problem, start an HOA. And I would tell this to every person listening that owns or lives in a neighborhood. Start an HOA with your community, and then you fund it yourself out of your taxes, and then you can pay for the road without coming to the board or doing SADs. That's what neighborhoods need to do, though, especially the ones that are, well, okay. Jim, you can't talk at public comment. I'm just, nobody at home can hear you. Okay, so, okay. Okay, so I want to thank the Red Shirt program for tearing up the floor from the jail. They came out and tore up the sheriff's department floor and got it prepped. Tomorrow, the epoxy team will be going in there to epoxy the floor. Happy to see the Monroe County Fair is back, and Compassion Food and Fun is August 14th at Forest View. Any further comments from board members? Mr. Steiner?
Just real quick, I want clarification. If an SAD is formed and you sell your home in the middle of the project or down a couple of years from now, if it's going through your tax bill and that's how you're paying, you sell your home, that does transfer as like a lien on the property. So it doesn't say that you have to pay that bill just because you created it. Mm-hmm. It would follow the property to the new ownership.
Mm-hmm. And that would be negotiated.
Yeah, it's considered a buyer-seller agreement.
But they would
Thanks,
know,
Rick, I missed that one.
But they would know that because it's going to show up on a title search because that's going to show as a lien on the property. So yes, you have to disclose that part and negotiate. They may say, well, gee, you got a $10,000 balance, then I'm going to offer you $10,000 less. But at least you're still not going to walk away at some point saying, I still have to pay this $10,000. You just may not get as big of an offer on the house. So just to clarify, it doesn't mean that you're stuck with it for the rest of your life dealing with paying for it. It's going to start right there at the same.
All right, do we have any further comments from board members? If not, I look for motion to adjourn. Motion adjourn, second. Support. Adjourned.